Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Uh, we will we will give a presentation about the chapter 7, organizing the course. So before we start, this group, including me, Dimas, Syachony, Fentri Effani, and Nindy Amalia, will deliver this chapter. And the first presenter is me. I will explain about what is organizing the course. Organizing the course means that we have already, or the teacher have already prepared the course that include materials, content, and evaluation system that will be delivered to the student in the classroom. So there are two ways to organizing a course. The first one is you must make a choice what kind of course you will deliver to the student. Number two is there is no straight way to organize and sequencing a course. That means it will be changed every time you organize a new course or new materials for the next student or the new student. So the last one is make sure you choose the right one. It means before you organizing this course, you should know what kind of student or what kind of learners you will face. The next one is what it does mean to organize a course. Organizing a course is deciding what the underlying system will be that pull together the content and the material in accordance with the goals and objectives and that give the course a shape and structure. Organizing a course involves 5 overlapping processes. The first one is determining the organizing principles that drives the course. So before you organizing the course, you should find or choose the principles that drive your course. So the principles here mean that what kind of principles are best you use for teaching the student. The second one is identifying units, modules, or stands based on organizing principles. You should do this one because you should have understand or make it straight with your principles and principles of the course. So the materials or course you deliver which to your students, it will not change. Just stay in the right path. The third one, after you identifying, you should sequencing the unit. So you just sequence the unit from the easier to the difficult ones. Then determining the language and skill content of units. The last one is organizing the content within each unit. After you finish about determining, identifying units, sequencing, and determining the language and skill content units, the last one you should build in one chapter, or you arrange the materials in one chapter, beside on the introduction until the evaluation. The next one is why organizing a course? Because it is important, because it used for drive the teacher what course he should teach the student according to the principles. Like I was said before in the last slide, we as the teacher should follow the principles that we have determined in the first place. So we have no we don't do anything that makes student feel confusing, because we stay on the path to teach them the materials. Second one, make sure the students have clear goal in the end of the course. You make sure you make sure that before you start teaching in the class, you have say the student at the end of these materials on or the end of this course, you students will blah 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 and blah 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 blah. So you should give the clear goal to the student in the first in the first time or the beginning of the class to the student. The third one is sometimes negotiate the course with students are good, but make sure it follow the principle that have you choose specifically. It means that when you create a course or materials for the course, it's okay to negotiate with the student because the student have their own thinking. Then so if the student have a different thinking with other students, you can choose where is the best one, and you can use it in for the course in the class. The next one is how does one decide on an appropriate organization? The way you have conceptualized the content and define the goals and the objectives of the course provides the foundation for organizing the course. The next one, the way you conceptualize content and set goals and objective depends on your teaching and learning experience in general. So, uh, while you decide on appropriate organization of the course, sometimes or sometimes you will gain back or flashback what have you learned in your school and what have you teach in the last section or um, the last time you teach in the class. The next one, your belief about how learners also play an important role. The last one is the teaching context also play crucial role. If your course is part of institutional curriculum, the course organization may be predetermined. Time also take an important contextual factor. It means how many times the class meet up with you, how many meeting, how long the meeting conducted is very important, so the student can easily understand what you gonna tell to them. The next one is what are different ways to organize and sequence a course. Organizing the course, like I was said in the beginning slide, the second slide, that there is no one way or best way to organize a course because every time you change the classes or even like this, if you teach multiple class like in the high school or the vocational school, for examples, is you teach in motorcycle technique or engineering major and accountant major, you should have different way to organize the course because if you use the same course to the both of the major, it will be um, not very good idea because every major have their own complexity, and you should know how to define or to determine what is the good course, what better course for the engineering and accountants. So for the next material will be delivered by Fentri. Fentri, times is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The next material delivered by me, Fentri Effani, and I will explain about the example of the syllabus. There are four examples of the syllabus and they have different organizing each other. The first syllabus for high school Spanish course by Dennis Fine. The second syllabus for ESP course for scientists by Brock Palmer. The third syllabus for high intermediate to advanced level pre-university students from different cultures by Toby Brody. The last syllabus for a 4-week holiday course for young adults by Valerie Barnes. The first syllabus for high school Spanish course by Dennis Fine. Dennis Fine's Spanish course is organized around topics. Those topics are the organizing principle of the course. Each topic is the focus of a unit that lasts 2 to 3 weeks. Within each unit, students learn about aspect of the topic. For example, in the second unit, family life, which is 2 weeks long, students learn to talk and write about family members, family activities, and family rules and responsibilities. And then grammar takes a supporting role and is introduced in relation to the topic. Jadi, dalam silabus Dennis ini, grammar dijadikan sebagai peran pendukung yang dikaitkan dengan topik. The second syllabus for ESP course for scientists by Brooke Palmer. The organizing principle is not topics but texts, specifically scientific texts, include amplified definition, describing a mechanism and describing process, and so on. The main focus is on being able to write each of those kinds of texts. The course culminates in a mini conference and in which the student present their final paper research report to each other. The 6 types of text are basis for the course units, which span 12 weeks. The first week and the last 3 weeks address presentation skills. Speaking, reading, and listening are also included as part of the units, although that is not apparent from this syllabus list. The third syllabus for high intermediate to advanced level pre-university students from different cultures by Toby Brody. Toby has called it an integrated skills course because it integrates work on the 4 skills of speaking, listening, reading, and writing. She chose the newspapers as the text for her course. There are many reasons why she chose newspapers. Newspapers are a genre that students are familiar with. Since a newspaper exists in every culture, newspapers report current events and reaction to the events as they occur, and so on. Toby Brody has organized her course around what she calls pre-university skills, or skills that the students will need to master in order to do well in university. And then the skill for the first 4 units are summarizing, interviewing, objective reporting, and proposing solutions. Each unit is a week long. The supporting components she has labeled text, linguistic focus, and culture focus. For example, the focus skills of week 2 is to be able to conduct an interview, and students learn to read an article based on an interview and then role play the interview. They then interview fellow students using questions provided on interview card and write a newspaper story based on interview. Finally, they interview a native speaker about a cultural question and report to the class what they learned in the interview. The last syllabus for a 4-week holiday course for young adults by Valerie Berners. The organizing principle for Valerie Berners' course is quite different from Toby's. Her course is organized around theme-related field trips. Each module is week long and follows something of a predictable sequence or cycle of activities like prepare for the trip and take the field trip. And then the preparation for the field trip weaves together work on the vocabulary and communication, communicative and cultural skills the students will need. For example, this is I show the example of the syllabus during the field trip to the shopping mall. To this shopping mall, their tasks include going into certain stores to find out whether they carry certain big merchandise or give students discount, as well as interviewing shoppers about their views on the difference between shopping at the mall and shopping in the downtown store. And after the field trip, they reflect on their experience and consolidate their linguistic and cultural learning in a variety of formats, some regular such as journal and scrapbooks. Okay, so I can conclude that the four syllabus that I have investigated thus far in this chapter each have different organizing principles, like topics, writing text or tasks, academic skill, and time-based field trips. So, organizing principle must be capable of bringing together a variety of language skills elements to support it in shaping the objectives. Okay, thank you.
My name is Nindy Amalia Febriyati. I will explain about unit content and unit organization. Unit content and organization, the fourth and five effects of organizing course are determining unit content, particular tasks, skill, function, grammar, etc. in accordance with the objective for the unit are and determining how to organize the content within a unit. For example, an ASP course for professional in the designs. Week 1 is Introduction to ASP Presentation Skill Workshop, and week 2 Employee Food Definitions, and week 3 Describe a description of mechanism, and week 4 description or process. And you can read the example, you can read the for the next example in here. And then within each unit are based on the material design model from English for specific purpose, a learning centered approach by Hutchins and Wetters. That are is include content focus, language focus, and reading tasks. And for the next one is unit content. If the organizing principle is topic or time based, the content of a unit will depend on the way you have conceptualized course content and the goals and objective for the course. And if the organizing principle of a course is process or skill rather than a topic or theme, then the unit content will be somewhat predictable because it will include the language, skill, and strategies needed to carry out the process or master the skill. Formula 3 goals for her course is for students to develop scientific and technical writing skill and strategies. And the next one is to develop reading skill and strategies. And the last one is to develop speaking and listening skill and strategies. Nah, for the example, in organized principle is in topic or theme base is each unit in design mechanism finds Spanish triggers bring together vocabulary, grammar, culture, functions, and reading, writing, speaking, and listening skill using the topic as the unifying focus. And for the example for a course is process or skill is the organizing principle of block planner course is a scientific text which students needed to be able to understand and products. And the next one is unit organization. Unit organization, three complementary ways to organize model, unit, or standard in a course. That is a cycle. Some elements occur in a predictable sequence, and once the sequence is completed, it start all over again. For example, Brockbrenner described her unit organized as based on a cycle which begins with language input followed by focus on content and focus on language and ends with a rating task. For the next one is a matrix. A matrix means that elements are selected from certain categories of content, but not in a predictable order. For example, in a time-based course that integrates speaking, listening, reading, and writing, you could begin one unit with a listening exercise and then follow it with a reading and discussion. And the last one is a combination of the cycle and a metric means that within a given unit, the course might follow a predictable sequence of learning activities such as beginning each unit with a survey of what students know about a topic, ending each unit with students surveying others the outside of class, and some learning activities that are drawn from a metric. Okay, that's all my presentation. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.